Coming to you from 4,200 feet in the hills of Oregon, it is the voice of Chi-Town, the reddest beard in the high desert, your host of the M.O.A. broadcast, Sam Wilson. And just like that, folks, we are back. We've got another phenomenal episode lined out for you. Some of the best research and data out there today, all compiled into a fantastically entertaining piece of audio product, as the McDonald's CEO would call it. Let me pull up my show notes. So have you seen this? We talked about this, I think, in last week's episode, or the previous episode. The McDonald's CEO, I forget his name. He was taking the Big Arch Burger, I think it's called, for a test drive, and it was probably one of the most awkward product promotional videos you've ever seen in your life. Especially, I think one of the reasons people did not respond to it well online at all. They were not happy. I'll buy that for $1 because it looked, in my opinion, it looked ridiculous. This guy, who is, I'm sure, who knows how many times a millionaire, multimillionaire, multiple times over, and he's eating this McDonald's burger. They were still trying to promote this Big Arch thing. I don't know. It's kind of like a Big Mac on steroids, I guess. A limited time thing, kind of like the McRib or whatever. Anyway, it was awkward. He looked like he couldn't stand to even have the thing near him. And in one of the views or whatever, the close-ups, you could tell he had barely even taken a bite of this thing. Looked like he was just so disinterested or disgusted, possibly. Who knows? I don't know what his motivation was, but he didn't want to have anything to do with this burger, seemingly. So now they're on a damage control round where they're trying to, to play it down and say, there was all these other people are trying to help him. It was just, the video just wasn't representative of how he felt. And here's what we can do better next time. And people aren't buying it because it looked ridiculous. Anyway, that's a whole other story. We're not going to go into that again today. We covered that last time, and you can find all the irrelevant and pertinent information online and on your favorite social media site. But we do have, this is Season 2, Episode 6 of the Make It Out Alive broadcast. We've got our show highlights for today's episode: Robot Umpires, Trigger Meltdowns, Underwear Cliff... Was it underwear? Was it underwear or a bikini bottom? I don't know. Some gal in a swimsuit, I guess. Cliff rescue off the side of a cliff in her underwear or swimsuit bottom, whatever. Another kayak tragedy. One more woman driver doing what they do. And a violent roadside rescue gone bad. All right, let's get right into it. So if you haven't heard, what is it? MLB, Major League Baseball. I think it's I don't watch a lot of sports. I think I've mentioned that a number of times here on the show. So I don't really know the NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL. I guess I know that one for hockey. But MLB, Major League Baseball, they've started to implement this, what's called the ABS system. That stands for Automated Ball Strike Challenge System in the Major League Baseball games. And this has been, I don't even follow baseball, and I have seen this in a lot of social media clips and in news clips online, where for years now, these umpires have been getting, in my opinion, completely out of control, almost to the point of insanity. They will make calls that are beyond questionable. And I just saw one the other day, and if you are a baseball fan, you probably know which one this is. This just happened in the last 5 to 7 days or so, I think. This umpire, I don't know if this guy has some sort of vision impairment or if he is literally insane. I don't know what the deal is, but some guy was running along and he hits the, whatever, he gets a hit and he's running to first base and he clearly runs across first base and tags the bag. I mean, his foot goes squarely in the middle of the bag and he gets called out. And when they replay, even the announcers are like, this is insane. That guy clearly hit the first base bag. And when they play it back, the umpire is not even looking directly at the first base bag, and they overturn the call and the guy was safe because he was safe. It was it would have been clear to a mentally impaired goat that this guy, this player hit the first base bag. Anyway, so what are the outcomes of this? What happens now is before, apparently, the umpire's word was it. That was the final say. And at some point, I don't know, I think they implemented some type of video challenge system. Again, I don't really keep up on this. It's not my thing. But I do know now they have the ABS challenge system, and this is getting implemented on a game-by-game level. And the results have been bad. All bad. Just about for these umpires. And I am sure, I mean, you can tell these guys are taking it in the short. They are not happy. Their ego is getting just decimated because they used to be the final word. And now, I mean, we're seeing some of these insanely, outlandishly wrong calls, in my opinion. I mean, they look ridiculous because they play it back. And there's a like a holographic screen on your TV or phone or whatever you're watching on, tablet screen, and you're seeing these balls that are insanely out of whack with what they call. If some of the times they're calling it a strike, it's clearly a ball by, in some cases, multiple inches out of the strike zone. And if they're calling it a ball, sometimes it's clearly a strike, and so forth. So I did some research briefly, and we got to keep moving here because we've got all kinds of good info today. But there are 50 so far. According to the internets, it's a series of tubes, as you know. 53% of the challenges are successful, meaning 53% of the time, at least, that these players are calling a challenge against the umpire, they're turning out to be right, 53% of the time. So far, there is an average of 4.3 challenges per game and 2.3 successful challenges per game. Those numbers, that's what I looked up. That doesn't sound right to me because some of the clips that I've been watching on social media, it looks like there's a far higher rate of challenge than that. But regardless, that's what the internet's had to say about it. But here is the interesting thing. Where did it go by? I lost. Okay, here we go. The most embarrassing ABS stats for umpires so far in 2026. Some umpires are getting overturned 75 to 100% of the time when the players challenge it. So that doesn't mean every single game, all season long. But let's say in a given game, if players make 5 challenges, they get all 5 challenges overturned, and the umpire was wrong. So now that's, again, game by game. They gave the example, Chad Whitson in a particular game. I guess he's an umpire. 7 of 7 calls were overturned, meaning 7 out of the calls that he made that were challenged were overturned. 100% accuracy rate for the players against the umpire. This guy, C.B. Buckner, I don't even know baseball, and I know this dude's name. He is... I don't know what his deal is, but he has some issues, in my opinion, when it comes to calling games. That's all I'll say. 6 out of 8 calls were overturned in a recent game. That's a 75% turnover rate or overturn rate for his calls. And there are several other umpires that have been over 60% being overturned in a single game. So this is utterly insane, and I think, unfortunately, this really outlines and reinforces what a lot of baseball fans have been feeling and thinking in recent years, and that's that some of these umpires are just doing a very poor job, and the ABS system is showing that out to be true, in my opinion. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of cases where the system is showing the umpires are right and whatever. You're not going to see that stuff show up as much on social media because it doesn't get clicks and likes and views and so forth. And I get that. But it begs the question, how long until umpires are replaced with this technology? Because if they're getting overturned anywhere approaching a 50% rate, and in some cases a 75 to 100% overturn rate, what really is the point of having them there? What are they really adding other than confusion, adding time to the game, and then obviously getting attitude? I just saw a clip today when I was researching this where a guy, he called a challenge, a batter did. He called a challenge, and he was right. And he celebrated a little bit, and the umpire threw either him or his coach out of the game. And it's like... Talk about being butthurt at a very high level. So anyway, that's our little take on the ABS system for Major League Baseball so far in 2026. Yeah, what an absolute mess. And I can tell you, if that keeps up, the younger generation is not going to have, these younger generations are not going to have the allegiance to these umpires that older generations may have had, and it's not going to go well for them. So anyway, we got to keep moving. Okay, here's an interesting one. This I experienced firsthand in my life recently. Internet sales and wholesale direct to consumers is absolutely destroying brick and mortar stores and businesses. Let me get a quick sip here before we continue. Okay, what are we talking about? I had to get a part for my vehicle recently. No big deal. It wasn't a major thing. Just needed a part. So I happened to be in town. As I mentioned before, I live almost literally in the middle of nowhere in the high desert of Southern Oregon at 4,200 feet. And so the nearest actual real town where I live is not even really a real town almost. It's almost like a small outpost in the middle of nowhere. So the nearest real town is about 35 minutes away. I happen to be in town, and I needed this small part for my vehicle. So I stopped by the two big players there in town. I think it was AutoZone and O'Reilly's or whoever it was. I don't know. Anyway, I went in there and told them what I needed. They looked it up on their computer, and the part was $47. It was just a small electrical part, like a relay type thing. And it was $47 in one of them, and the other part store across the street, it was $53. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound so bad. But I went ahead and looked it up on Amazon because I have Amazon Prime. It winds up paying for itself many, many times over, especially here in the middle of nowhere. The part on Amazon was $13, and it would be delivered and basically placed at my feet in 2 days. Now remember, at the brick and mortar store, and I'm not opposed to brick and mortar stores. I like being able to go in there and buy something that I want or need, pay cash or whatever, for it now, get it in my hands and walk away. I'm good with that. And I have no problem whatsoever with stores having a markup so they have profit. I completely understand that. That makes perfect sense. I don't have a problem with that at all. I sell products myself, and you have to have a markup. Otherwise, why in the world would you go through the problem of doing? No one wants to go through all the headache and the trouble of having a business just to break even. You have to make enough profit to make it worth your while. Otherwise, why do it? You'll move on to something else. So I have no problem with any of that. But I was able to buy the part online, which I did, and it showed up in less than 2 days later. And I paid $13 for the same exact part that I was going to get charged $47 and or $53 from a brick and mortar store. They even had the same stock photos of the part and everything. I'm sure it's the exact same part sold from the exact same factory or reseller or whatever, wholesaler overseas. And so the problem is now some of these companies, in my opinion, have gotten so greedy. They're charging an insane level of markup. And here is the core problem, in my opinion, about this. A lot of these companies were pushing and driving production overseas and creating demand for these impossibly cheap products as long as they were the gatekeepers, as long as they were the ones that got to import these products almost exclusively and then sell them at a ridiculously high markup from overseas. And then they reaped all the rewards. And that worked great for a long time, built empires almost literally. But the problem is now is a lot of these production companies and factories overseas are now cutting out the middleman. They are selling direct to people online through Amazon, Temu, and all kinds of other places. And they're cutting out these retailers, these brick and mortar stores completely. And they're selling at ridiculously low prices. And the other problem that shows is not just that these companies are getting cut out, but it's also exposing to us, the consumer, the insanely cheap prices they were buying these products for, and then turning around and not just making a profit, but making a massive, a 3, 4, 5, or 6 or 10x, profit on these products that they never even touched. They got imported, they got boxed up or just relabeled or had a sticker slapped on there, and they went right on the shelf. And we have been paying the price for this greed all along. And I'm not turning this into some working man hero story. I'm just saying it was shocking to me that I was able to go online, right to Amazon, and buy the exact same part, same stock photo, same everything, and pay $13 instead of $53 for it at a brick and mortar store. And this is not looking good, man. It's going to be long term. This is going to be bad for a lot of stores. It already has been. And that's just one more reason why you want to encourage production and factories and all this stuff domestically. It's not about patriotism, although there can be that aspect to it. It's about pragmatism, practicality. If you want to be around doing this for a long time, then you need to have a stable situation, and the more products you get produced at home, the better. And I'm not going to get into the political aspect of this because that's not the point of the show, but people are still getting, bent out of shape about these tariffs. Tariffs on products coming into the U.S. Guys, countries all over the world have been paying big tariffs, taxes, VAT, value-added tax, for decades for products that came out of the U.S., and that was basically their penalty for buying products that weren't produced locally or domestically. And people around the world, I've sold products to a lot of countries in Europe and other places where they have been paying these, 10, 15 or more percent, 20% in some cases, even higher, to get our products out of the U.S. And they've just had to deal with it. And now that it's finally impacted people here in the U.S., people are losing their minds over it. So, anyway, we're not going to go into the political aspect of that, but that is just the reality of it. People have been doing that for a long time all around the world. If you don't like it, if you want to get around it, then buy products made domestically. If you can't find products made domestically, then there's a problem. We need to help create that market. So it's not that simple. I get it, whatever. But there we go. And that brings us in a similar vein. So we look at cutting out the middleman. Tesla has done this with getting rid of dealerships, cutting out dealerships, and selling direct to the customer or the consumer. Now, the electric car debate is an interesting one. You see a lot of people, I'm not going to buy an electric car. I want something that runs on gasoline. I want an internal combustion engine, and, I like my diesel and all this other kind of stuff, and I want no electric car. It's not quite as simple as, gasoline is better and electric is trash. Like any new technology or any new product development, it takes time for, these different technologies to catch up. And I fully believe that in sooner or later, in a certain amount of time, the electric vehicles are going to they're already amazing. If you've ever ridden in one of them, the way they deliver power to the wheels is unreal. There are videos all over online, like if you look at the different social media platforms of some of these Teslas just stomping a mud hole in mega powered muscle cars, because electric motors, they dump all of that power almost instantaneously to the rear wheels or to the drive wheels. And there are other, there's efficiency, there's so on and so forth. This isn't going to be about, whether electric is good or bad, but simply, there are a lot of people that hold out. I have no interest in owning an electric vehicle at this point in time. But sooner or later, that technology is going to get there, and it's going to be a different conversation. Is it going to be the answer for everyone? Absolutely not. There are still a lot of limitations, but we do know that, like anything with technology, over time, it always gets better. It gets smaller. It gets more powerful. Look at cell phones and computers. Look at what the average cell phone and computer looked like 30, 35 years ago, and look at it now, okay? To me, the bigger problem is, look at these, Tesla is probably the most famous example, but these vehicles that have so much software and technology on them, and they can be controlled remotely. Now, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but we'll get to that in a second. Think about this, though. A lot of these vehicles can be completely controlled remotely. They can be turned on or turned off. The doors can be locked or unlocked, and the vehicles can be driven remotely, self-driving to a destination. Doesn't that seem a little problematic to you? Now, people are saying, oh, it can't happen, meaning, let's say the government, whenever all this happens, whenever all this automation finally catches up to the wet dreams these people have that have the power and the control and the authority, or have the dreams of power and control and authority, you get into your vehicle and you've been a bad boy. You said something online that the government doesn't like. which is happening it's happened in America. There are a couple of cases in America where this has happened, where people have been arrested and or prosecuted for posting something online that some local official didn't like, and it's happening on an even larger scale in Europe. But let's say you posted a meme that somebody decides is a no-no. You get into your electric car and boom, now the doors can be locked. You can't get out because in some cases there's barely a physical door handle. And guess what? It self-drives you to some location that you may or may not want to go to. You have no control over what's going to happen. You can't stop it. It's happening without your input. There's the choo-choo train in the background. Doesn't that seem a little problematic to you? And people are going to say, oh, that can't happen. Oh, that'll never happen. That'll never take place. They won't use it that way. Guys, people said the same thing about these home automation devices. What are they called? The Alexas and the Siris and all this stuff. Oh, they're never going to listen to your private conversations. Guess what? In some of these cases, they were found to have been collecting data. Then there were data breaches and so on and so forth. There was an article, I've had to go back and look it up, but I want to say it was somewhere in the Midwest, where a couple of years ago, the power company decided too much power was getting consumed, and they started regulating people's smart thermostats at home. You would let's it was summertime, so let's say you set the thermostat at 62 degrees. You like it nice and cool when you come home from work. Well, guess what? Power company decides, hey, we're using too much power, and they turned it up to 75 degrees because that's where they figure you ought to have it. Now that's a real story. I have to go back. I can get the info, the story. I don't have time to include it in today's episode. That actually happened, though. That is real. That is what happens when people get in control of these automated devices. And electric vehicles are just that. So I think it's more than just, is it, which one has more power, which one has more efficiency, which one has more range, as opposed to electric or internal combustion vehicles. There is the issues of all these automations and the software and the control that is involved. And if you think at some point the government or a private company won't use that against you, you are absolutely insane. History has shown over and over and over again that you cannot possibly underestimate how insane someone gets when they have access to that much power and control. So there we go. That's... What an absolute mess. Where are we at on time? Holy smokes, we got to get moving. Are we going to have time to even do these two stories? You know what? We will do these two stories in next week's episode because I don't want to make this a 50-minute episode. We'll try and keep this down a little more manageable. But I wanted to get to this one. We were going to do one where a woman dies in a kayak, and we'll get to that later. We'll do that next week along with the bikini underwear rescue on the cliff face in California. Actually, that lady did a really good job. We make a joke because she's in her bathing suit, but that really isn't that funny. It was just, we're having some fun here on the show. This lady did a really good job. She saw the tide was coming in, and she managed to climb onto a cliff face and get rescued. So we'll cover that episode or that story next week. But when we talk about things women probably shouldn't be doing anyway, I'll buy that for $1. We go to Florida. I'll read the headline from the New York Post. School bus driver busted after shocking video shows train clipping vehicle full of kids. Oh my God. And I'm only laughing and having some fun here because no one was actually hurt, especially not the kids. No one was hurt.
Praise Jesus.
But this lady does not need to be driving a bus, in my opinion. Like a lot of women. Personal opinion. Do with that what you will. Okay, so what happened? We go to Florida. This woman and a Florida school bus driver has been charged criminally after a shocking video captured young children screaming in horror after a train clipped their bus at a railroad crossing. So what happened? The bus driver, Yvonne Hampton, 67, drove across the tracks in Sumter County on Thursday while allegedly saying she was not going to stop for no train. Guys, some things are negotiable in life and some things aren't. If you're in a vehicle and there's a train coming, it's non-negotiable. You are going to stop or get out of the way. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time. Okay, let's dig in here. What happened? According to an arrest report, Hampton, that's the bus driver, told police there was a car at the railroad crossing and she was waiting for the car to move. She claimed that after the car began to move, she then began to drive the bus over the tracks, but the car then stopped. Hampton claimed she had to stop the bus where it was parked in the video clip. In the video clip, you see this. It's insane. This bus basically got out of the way at the last second, and it appears, I couldn't really tell in the video I saw on my phone, but apparently the train actually made contact with the bus and clipped it. It was that close to being on the other side of the tracks. The back end of the bus, the back bumper area or whatever else, got clipped by this train coming through at speed. Okay? Upon asking, let's see, where we go here? Upon asking the defendant if at any time she stopped on the tracks, the defendant, that's the driver of the bus, replied no, the responding officer stated in the report. She then informed me that as she was moving over the tracks, the railroad crossing warning system activated. The responding officer said in the report that they reviewed audio and video from the incident, which, according to them, contradicted Hampton's account. Hampton is the bus driver. According to the officer, onboard audio and video footage allegedly showed the bus approaching the railroad crossing and a silver car stopping at the stop sign on the other side of the tracks. As the railroad crossing warning lights activated and the crossing arms began to lower, Hampton, the driver, could allegedly be heard saying, "Not gonna stop for no train," and then driving forward over the track.
Hey, where are the white women at?
Maybe this lady was having a bad day. I don't know. I live near railroad tracks and I get the frustration, but holy smokes, man, when you got a bus full of, 29 kids? Yeah, here we go. The train then clipped the rear corner of her bus, which had 29 children and 2 adults on board. She had been charged with 29 counts of felony child neglect. Incredibly, the article states, nobody was injured, but a dramatic clip posted on TikTok shows traumatized kids freaking out as the train speeds behind them, just inches away from the back of the bus. A matter of 6 inches is the difference in all of this. Freezing. And it could have been an extremely catastrophic situation, Sumter County School District Superintendent Logan Brown said in a video statement. No one was injured, officials said. One student who was on the back of the bus told News 6 she was terrified because all I could see was the train hitting the bus. So anyway, she has been arrested. She was, where did it say? She was fired the same day. Yeah, Hampton had worked for the district for more than a decade until she was fired after the incident and charged with 29 counts of felony child neglect. She was being held without bond at the Sumter County Jail. Records show. I saw a video where I believe she got released, so she must have made bail and got out, or bond, whatever. The district has since made changes to its bus routes, including immediately removing the crossing where the crash occurred, and is reviewing its driver hiring process. So, we wouldn't be laughing and having this conversation if anyone had been hurt. There's nothing funny about a kid getting hurt by a train or anybody else for that matter. But fortunately, it was just a crazy, wild incident. I don't know if this lady was having a bad day, if, what her deal was. And here's the thing. If she had just managed to get forward a couple of more inches, 6 inches, as the Sumter County School District Superintendent Logan Brown stated, freezing. This probably wouldn't be a news story, but somebody had their phone on it because this bus was extremely close to a railroad crossing while an oncoming train was barreling through there and caught it, and it went basically viral on TikTok. And then it did clip the back of the bus, so I'm sure there had to be some type of incident report and all kind of other stuff were triggered by all of this. And the next thing you know, this lady went from having a bad day and just being irritated about having to stop for a stupid driver or whatever it was in front of her, to now she's got 29 felony counts. She's been fired from her job. She is all over the internet. Her mugshot, probably all of her personal information is everywhere out there. Folks, you have to assume that everything you're doing is being recorded and posted somewhere online 24/7 almost, unless you're in the privacy of your own home. And even then, if you have cameras in your home, bet on it's going out somewhere. And fortunately, none of those kids were hurt, and no one was hurt to my knowledge. from the articles that I read. But man, what an absolute mess. And, that's maybe she should be in a different line of work. I don't know. I know, in all fairness, I have to say, I've seen some videos of what kids are acting like on school buses now. I would imagine it is probably beyond frustrating. I know when I was growing up, if a school bus driver told you something and then you smarted off or got sassy with them, I saw kids get popped in the mouth right there and then. And I'm sure today that would be, oh, you're going straight to jail and blah, blah, blah. That's the way it happened. And for the most part, kids were very respectful of the school bus driver and teachers and so forth. But I've seen enough videos online where these kids are absolute insane maniacs, the way they act toward teachers, school bus drivers. So I can get that she was probably beyond frustrated, or had, maybe that was just the last straw that day. Maybe something else would happen in her life, whatever. I can sympathize with it. I really can. I wouldn't last in that job. I couldn't handle some stupid, 6-year-old kid or 12-year-old kid sassing me and screaming at me and calling me cuss words and whatever else, and I couldn't hear while I'm trying to drive or whatever else. But the bottom line is she messed up big time, according to the article here, the information we have. So let's just be glad that that bus wasn't cut in half or nobody was hurt or whatever else. It was just some very minor property damage from what we saw. So let's check our time. Where are we at? Let's go ahead and get into the chaos report. Here we go. It's time for the M.O.A. Chaos Report, where somebody's bad decisions give you a good laugh. Real news, real hard, real funny. Some elements modified for extra laughs. We go to Florida. Okay, we go to Florida, folks, for our M.O.A. Chaos Report. In today's episode, a routine roadside rescue quickly turned into violence in Florida when a man who crashed his car allegedly attacked a stranger who stopped to help and then lashed out at responding deputies. We had a good Samaritan gone bad. Or at least treated badly, I guess would be the correct way to put it. Okay, what happened? Authorities say 44-year-old Daniel Coleman now faces multiple charges, including battery and assault on a law enforcement officer following the incident along State Road 429 near Seidel Road in Winter Garden, just outside Orlando. And let's not forget, this article comes to us via townflex.com. Deputies responding to the crash shortly before 10 a.m. on March 30 found a white Lexus lodged against a guardrail. Nearby stood Hans Hamilton, a passerby who had pulled over after spotting the wreck. This guy is just a poor good Samaritan. Hans. I think of the what was that, Saturday Night Live, the Hans and Franz skit. Poor Hans is just driving along and he sees a car wreck and he pulls over. What began as an act of goodwill turned dangerous within moments. According to investigators, Coleman appeared visibly angry and agitated when Hamilton approached. That's Hans. When Hans approached. From there, the situation escalated quickly. Anybody see Richie? Daniel was yelling at Hans and calling him a... And a... The affidavit stated... I yelled for Daniel to stop so I could assist him, and he yelled me to shut my... and get the... away from him, and... up my... real hard. He then said, you stinking... in an angry and aggressive manner. Hamilton told deputies, Hans told deputies that he then jumped on the hood of his Tesla, stomping and striking the vehicle, damaging the hood, roof, and windshield. Moments later, the suspect allegedly turned physical towards Hans and others. Get down, you before I beat the out of your stinking now. Police say Coleman struck Hamilton at least 50 times. Poor Hans reported extreme pain and suffered cuts and bruises to his face. As speaking after the incident, Hans described the fear he felt during the attack. He yelled, "I'm gonna kill you! I will kill you!" And Hans stated, "I believed him." His eyes were demonic, like a monster, Hans stated. He said survival became his only focus. "I fought with everything I had to make sure that I was not going to see the roadside for my last view." Yeehaw! When deputies attempted to intervene, the violence did not stop. Investigators say Coleman tried to shove and punch an officer. "Get back before I beat the out of you right now." Even after being taken to the ground, he allegedly continued resisting arrest. You! Witnesses, including Hans, assisted officers in placing Coleman in handcuffs, but the struggle continued. Authorities say the suspect grabbed one deputy in the groin and kicked another while being escorted to a patrol vehicle. Coleman was taken into custody and booked into the Orange County Jail. As of Monday afternoon, he remained behind bars on a $5,000 bond. All right, folks. Remember, don't wait until you have an emergency to prepare. If you wait, it may be too late. If you don't make it out alive, you don't make it out at all. Stay safe out there, folks.